They shattered his American dream. Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming your way for another one of my famed movie/Blu-ray reviews. Today I will be reviewing the movie and kind of recently released Blu-ray by Kino Lorber of Pray for Death. I've known about this title since the 80s. Late 80s I got all into ninja movies, and a buddy of mine, childhood friend by the name of Willie, showed me American Ninja, and then later in 1989 I would seek out Revenge of the Ninja, which was my first introduction to Sho. How do you pronounce his name? Sho Kosugi. My first introduction to Sho was when I was 12, and I rented Revenge of the Ninja, and then that was probably my only Sho movie for quite a long time until I'd go on to probably in my my 40s or late 30s I'd see probably not until my 40s I wouldn't see Enter the Ninja and whatever else and Ninja 3 and things like that. I think I got the VHS of, was it called Rage of Honor or something, but my introduction to Sho was when I was 12 and seeing Revenge of the Ninja. I still, for the record, I think Revenge of the Ninja is my favorite Sho Kosugi. Forgive me if I'm just destroying Kosugi. Forgive me if I'm just butchering, hacking to pieces with a sword his last name, but my favorite of his is probably Revenge of the Ninja, and maybe a lot of that has to do with seeing it at 12, but I still think, watching it as an adult, man, Revenge of the Ninja is just so great. And then, of course, I ended up getting this years and years and years ago. It might have been like 2009-ish or 2010-ish. And I think I had it forever and forever, and then, at some point I think I did watch it, and I'm pretty sure at the time, this would have been like maybe, I have no idea, 2016, 17, 18. I'm pretty sure at the time I didn't think a whole hell of a lot of it, but then cut to spring 2025, and Kino Lorber had a Blu-ray sale, so I was able to get this among other titles for $10, and I'm like, you know what? I looked at the trailer again on YouTube, and I'm like, this looks kind of fun, and for $10 it can help me achieve my, $60 or more to get free shipping on the Kino Lorber sale. So I went for it, and I just watched it last night, or rewatched it. Saw it probably for the first, I rewatched it. I saw it for the first time. I rewatched it and saw it probably for the second time last night, and my thoughts on it are pretty much the same as it probably was when I saw it the first time. I think maybe because of the superior, video quality of this presentation, I probably liked it a little more the second time. Admittedly, it's very similar to the storyline, if you will, of Revenge of the Ninja. If you don't know that storyline, I'll simply say that they're in Japan. They get attacked by, well, it's funny because the opening scene that kind of takes place in Japan in this movie isn't even in the movie. It's on a TV show. He's watching some ninja. His two kids incidentally, his two kids, Kane, who is, I think he was, maybe his first movie with his dad was Revenge of the Ninja. Kane is in this along with his brother Shane. So two of Sho's sons are in this movie. I'm not too sure Shane is necessarily, as well versed in the, karate ninjutsu skills as Shane is. I can't remember if Shane does any, karate stuff or whatever. I know he gets his ass kicked in karate class or whatever. But anyway, oh my God, I was starting to say something. So I was just saying that I guess I don't have to compare both of them. I can just say the premise of one of them. But as I said, the plot of this is very, very similar to Revenge of the Ninja, and where it's basically, showing his gorgeous freaking playboy Asian American. I guess her character, and probably the actress as well, was born in America. And later on in the unrated version, you do actually get to see her tits, but it's in a violent way, and it's always funny to me, when, not funny, but just strange to me when they show tits in a violent scene. It's like, is that supposed to be sexy? Like seeing the nudity when she's being murdered and beaten? Let's show her tits. I mean, I know some guys are probably into that, but I ain't one of them. But anyway, the premise of this, nice voice there, buddy. The premise of this movie is simply just like the hot Asian American playboy bunny wife of Show basically talks him into moving to America and starting a business. And like I say, if you've seen Revenge of the Ninja, it's kind of a carbon copy. As far as the overall premise and stuff, except for what's so cool about Revenge of the, I'll probably talk about Revenge of the Ninja more in this review than what the hell is this movie called, Pray for Death, because it's just, I love that so much. But there's, Show's got his mom, I think, probably not his real mom, but an older woman who plays Sho Koshugi's mom in Revenge of the Ninja, and she even gets out some stuff and tries. We're talking about Revenge. You know what? Out of both of these movies, just go watch Revenge of the Ninja, because I'm just thinking of the scene where Mom's trying to defend the household and against the bad guy, and it doesn't work very well. Just her, like, no expression. Anyway, I'm supposed to be talking about what's this called? Pray for Death. I was going to say Kiss of Death. Pray for Death. Anyway, as I've already indicated, very similar to the premise of Revenge of the Ninja. Go from Japan to America and try to set up a business. It's so depressing, because although I've seen this probably once before on this big box VHS release, I don't think I necessarily remembered too much of it. And actually, as I was watching the Blu-ray version, I was like, God, was that in the VHS tape version? Because I don't remember that at all. Like whole scenes, But if I wasn't too taken with it the first time I saw it on VHS, you're not going to remember it. And plus, that was maybe better part of 10 years ago or whatever. But yeah, the premise is, move from Japan to America, try to set up a business in the most seedy frickin' part of town you can imagine. Of course, you've got the famous scene where very much like with Revenge of the Ninja, where Show's son, Kane runs in. Both Kane and Shane actually run into like some more I guess child bullies, and of course they have to have their own child fight scene where they child karate kids beat up child bullies and stuff, and that's fun. Honestly, even though I just watched this last night, it's kind of a mind wipe. It starts with then there's a decent amount of ninjutsu kind of stuff in the movie, and as I said, it starts with a scene that's very similar, like to the opening scene of Revenge of the Ninja, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, but it cuts to being like a show that Kane and Shane are watching. Of course, Kane and Shane are Sho Koshugi's real life sons, playing his sons in the movie. And they're watching some ninja TV show in Japan or whatever, and it's like, ha 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 ha, are you watching a ninja show again? But so move to America, try to set up a business in the shadiest part of town imaginable, and of course where they're moving to, is sold to them by some nice old guy, and you see this guy just killed and beaten and blown up on a car hood. I will say I watched there's two cuts on this Blu-ray release, as we'll get into. There's an R-rated cut and an unrated cut, and of course I watched the unrated cut, and there's this extended beating of this guy, and I want to say the bad guy is just saying like liar, liar, liar. He's saying some word over and over as he's like beating him or whatever, and it's just funny. Keith would laugh at that. Keith's a buddy of mine since frickin' junior high or whatever, but he's just like liar, 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 liar. I can't remember. That might have not have been the word he was saying, but it might have been. I don't know. He was repeating one word just over and over. But there's an extended version of like the old man getting beaten and blown up in this movie. But the premise is very simple. They basically buy this house/business from this old guy. And the whole premise of this movie is this bad guy, who incidentally is in a famous episode of Quincy M.E. that I saw while I was camping out in my backyard as a teenager in 1991. I had this little black and white TV that is some camping out. I set up this tent in the backyard, and I had an extension cord so I could have the TV and VCR in the tent. And I was watching Quincy M.E., and it was this famous, come to be for me, famous episode called Seldom Silent Never Heard, about Tourette's. And I was all like 14 years old, and I was like watching this kid go, "Air," and I'm like, oh my God, am I gonna get this now? Because I'm like, I just a year prior I'd like gotten really severe OCD, which I call OCP, obsessive compulsive persuasion. But like, oh God, now I'm like watching this TV show and I've got this other freaking ailment put before my eyes. Like, am I gonna simulate this? Luckily, I never did or anything, motherfucker. Just kidding. That's actually not funny because I guess Tourette's is a real thing or whatever. Fuck. But that's not actually funny. I take that back. But luckily, as far as I know, I've never. Your mother's a bitch. Just kidding. Never got Tourette's. But yeah. So anyway, Jesus, I'm all over the place. But what I was saying is the sweet father of the Tourette's patient from Seldom Silent, Never Heard. He'd go on to be in more, at least one more Quincy episode later on as a completely different character. But the sweet father of the Tourette's guy in Quincy M.E., Seldom Silent, Never Heard, is the evil bad guy. In what's this called? I always want to say Pray for Death. Kiss of Death. Kiss of Death is probably a movie too. Tears are going down my eyes because I just cracked myself up. But yeah, that guy is the evil henchman, and basically the whole premise is the reason that Sho and his sons and family get drawn into the violence and the drama of this movie is because these bad guys, these drug runners or coke, jewelry thieves or whatever. I don't know why, and it just so happened that 2 cops were involved. I don't know, shady cops, whatever. But this property that they move into has actually been this house. We don't know how long that these bad guys have been like bringing, either drugs and or jewelry, putting it under the floorboards of this house, locking it up with a padlock, and then give the other people the address or something and a key, presumably go pick up the stuff there. So they this old guy, I guess, who knows how long this has been going on, unbeknownst to the old guy, and so it continues to go on after the old guy sells them the house and gets beaten and blown up, of course, because the bad guys are like, where's the necklace? Of course, the old guy doesn't know anything about it, gets beaten and blown up. And having beaten and blown up that guy, now the bad guys have to go on to taunt and just bother the new Sho Koshugi and family now living in the house where in the basement and the floorboards. I don't know why they gotta. It's a plot point of this movie, whatever. Bad guys use just some random house to just put things in the floorboards to exchange. I don't even know how that would work in reality. It probably wouldn't, but it's a goofy, kung fu movie from the mid-'80s, 1985, I want to say. Yeah, so just like so many movies I've been reviewing this year, 40th anniversary of Pray for Death, if memory serves. My memory was actually correct in this instance. Wow, 40 years old of Pray for Death. But that's basically the premise of this movie. As I said, there's a decent amount of, like, in the beginning, maybe first 20 minutes or so, a decent amount of ninjutsu, kung fu-ery, of course, the opening scene, which turns out to be a TV show. Then some scene with, like, some sensei or father or something of the Sho Koshugi character. That I don't know, this fight scene that seems to just go on and on. Which is fine because it's cool and flips in slow motion and this and that and torches for weapons and whatever. So I don't have a problem with like the having a whole bunch of towards the beginning of the movie all this kung fu-ery. That's why we're watching this movie, not for the acting or the dramatic nuances or anything. But of course, I'm not going to spoil all this and that. All I will say is that something bad happens, and which, of course, the more bad stuff you can do to a viewer and a character in a movie, obviously, the more the character and the viewer is just going to want revenge for the Sho Koshugi character, and we'll just say something pretty damn bad happens in this movie. And I will say that, and it really makes you want to get revenge all the more. And I will say that the bad guys' main henchman, I gotta say, and I've seen a decent amount of these movies throughout my lifetime, these ninjutsu kung fu kind of movies and action and stuff of the 80s and stuff, and I'm like, God, this guy, I don't remember it at all, but like the guy who's like the henchman of the bad guy, the main henchman or whatever, who does a lot of the evil deeds and stuff in this movie, like, God, he's really one of the probably most just evil kind of henchman I've ever seen in a movie. And not only that, but he really holds his own probably unrealistically in the the one-on-one combat with the Sho Koshugi in the end of the movie. It's like, God, this guy is like, the last half of this movie, he's like, always around doing bad, doing this and that. And like I say, the showdown between him and Sho at the end of the showdown between him and Sho, get it? At the end of the movie, it's just, he lasts a lot longer than he probably would, because I mean, Sho is probably what, in his 30s in this movie, and the henchman guy is probably what, late 50s, at least, or whatever, mid to late 50s, and he's running around. He's holding his own against Sho, and Sho's like this 30-something frickin' ninja, and this guy is holding his own, which is fakey and funny in a completely different aspect. It's like, yeah. So I will say that, like, out of a lot of henchmen from the movies of this time, 80s action movies, 80s ninja movies, this guy, and I can't believe I didn't really remember him the first time I watched the VHS, but this guy, he's just like, you really want him dead. And it's so funny in the fight between him and Sho at the end. It's just like, man, he's, they usually don't let the bad guy, especially if he's like pushing 60, and presumably this guy doesn't have any karate or ninjutsu training, and he's like lasting this long with the ninja, and it's just funny. It's dumb and funny. So I guess that pretty much does it for my review of the movie. What the hell would I give? I know I've been given a lot of these. I'm not trying to be lazy with a lot of my star ratings as of late, but my feelings about so many of these movies is just, just the mid-range, not horrible, not amazing. So my star rating for whatever this is called, Pray for Death, would be 2 stars out of 4 stars. Maybe that's a little high, honestly, but it's I'm giving the star rating just for the fun old, campy ass ninjutsu. I mean, Sho Koshugi, back in his prime, frickin' mid-80s, in ninja gear, just doing what he does. And I'm pretty sure all the ninjutsu stuff is coordinated by him, as well, as often probably is the case a lot of times. One thing I don't want to forget to mention is the kind of, he gets this in Japan or whatever, I think, and brings it back to America, the helmet. Like, instead of just being like, he does the, in the opening scene, of course, he does the traditional ninja gear and the traditional ninja hood and stuff, but for the end of the movie he does something a little different, which is like this ninja helmet. I don't know if this would have existed in reality or something. Probably they just made up for the movie, but this kind of metal ninja helmet with like a Chinese star stuck here as their decoration, but as we'll find out, it's also usable. And this cool kind of, which realistically serves no purpose, but a cool kind of a shredder, the Ninja Turtle shredder, kind of a couple of metal plates that interconnect right here, and he can open the plates, and then he's got like this little, I don't know what, fabric black thing that he can then, if he wants to reveal his face before he kills someone, he can do so like that, and then put the little fabric back up, and then clink, clunk, shut the little ninja metal door, mouth protector, like Optimus Prime. Yeah, there's so many things that his like ninja helmet thing kind of looks like or whatever, but they were taking place around the same time in history, like Transformers and around this time, and whatever else I said. Didn't I say something else? I kind of might have already said something else and I forgot it already, but that can happen. But yeah, a decent amount of kung fooery, and maybe the middle part of the movie might be the most boring and stuff, but definitely not one of my favorite. I can only assume, like, after the breakout success of Revenge of the Ninja, like, I can only assume, like, Sho's movies maybe that he participated in kind of just got more and more not so amazing. I can remember watching the VHS I've got of Rage of Honor. Is it called Rage of Honor? I think that might be like a couple of years, like 87 or something. And I don't think he's even doing ninja stuff at that point. I think he maybe kind of got sick of doing the ninja stuff, and maybe he's just some action hero by that point. But I don't remember that being that amazingly amazing. And Kino's got that on Blu-ray as well. And part of me is like tempted to get it, but I might not or whatever. And if I do, I'll show you. I'll review it and do a Blu-ray review, and if I don't get it, I won't. But I guess that does it for my review of the movie. Now on to my review of the still kind of recently released Blu-ray. Mine's got a slipcover, as you can see, kind of basically mimicking the cover art of the big box VHS that came out around 40 years prior or whatever. But this is a relatively cool frickin' package, as you can see. Special features, audio commentary by action film historian, this guy, and UK cult movie director, that guy. Show and Tell Part 1, interview with Sho Kosugi. I wish I knew how to pronounce his last name. And theatrical trailer. I did watch that interview with Sho, and amazingly he was speaking in English. I thought maybe he'd be speaking in Japanese with subtitles, but it's like 15 minutes long or something, 15, 16 minutes, and I guess as a part 2, this is kind of what makes me want to get the, the Rage of Honor. It's kind of cool. It's kind of a cool marketing gimmick, They put part 2 of the interview on the Blu-ray release of Rage of Honor. I can only assume that's just part 2 of a 2-part interview possibly, but it's fun listening to 15, 16 minutes listening to Sho talk about his just being young and wanting to, he talks about wanting to be like 19 and hopeless, and contemplated for a few months ending his ending his life, and it's just like, man, I thought I had it bad at 19. I guess not, but yeah, we contemplated ending his life at 19 because, his older siblings were successful and he wasn't, and good thing he didn't, because if he did, we wouldn't have, him to enjoy in Revenge of the Ninja and all of his other exploits. So thank you for sticking, hanging in there, Sho. But yeah, he kind of details his, early life and getting into movies and stuff, and I think the interview more or less kind of stops around the time of the release of this movie, and then I imagine he talks about Rage of Honor, anything else beyond in that part 2 of the interview. But yeah, pretty cool interview. Yeah, I don't listen to commentaries of people that didn't have anything to do with the movie itself, so I can't comment on the commentaries. As for the video presentation of this release, I want to say that, when it first started, I don't really like the manner in which the opening credits have that kind of, I don't know what you'd even call it, they make a motion and they leave a trail of their motion behind, just kind of blurry, blurry action opening credits, very similar to the opening credits of like Enter the Ninja, where Sho and his, I think, son are doing like, ninjutsu kind of moves and this and that, but all with a kind of a headache-inducing, blurro vision where they leave a trail behind them, and it's just like, god dang. So the opening, when you watch this Blu-ray and you watch the opening credits, it almost looks like just nasty ass kind of mid-80s video. It looks really horrible. That's because probably that blur, effect was maybe added in video. It's really hard to say, but whether it's video or not, it looks like video, and I was kind of like, Jesus Christ, this looks horrible in the opening credits of the Blu-ray. But as the Blu-ray goes on, it looks fine. It's kind of disappointing that this movie, something like this of this budget was in the 2:3:5 aspect ratio, because a lot of this stuff obviously is the conventional 1:8:5. So I'm not, it's kind of not that amazing that it's in that aspect ratio. I can't remember if the VHS had this big effect of being cropped, side to side, or if it's like a super 35mm kind of a situation where on the VHS you see more on the top and bottom. I can't remember any of that. If this is one of those instances where the VHS was in fact cropped so bad where you're only seeing like half of the image, I guess this Blu-ray release is a breath of fresh air to people who can finally, I don't know if the widescreen version would have been available before this or not, but as the movie wears on, I don't know if it's because of the film stock used or if it's like whatever, but throughout the first half there wasn't, I'm a grain guy and I like my film grain and stuff. There wasn't a lot of grain, but then when you got into darker scenes, there's a nice amount of film grain and stuff. So I'm not crazy about this aspect ratio, so it doesn't allow for as good a scrutiny of the image as like a traditional 1:8:5 aspect ratio. So it's hard to say. It's not I guess a transfer that just blows the hell out of, blows my ass off. And since there's no they don't say anything about the transfer being new or recent or anything on here, so I don't think so. They just say this 2-disc special edition includes both the R-rated and unrated versions of the film. They don't say anything about a recent 2K scan or anything about the scan that I'm seeing, but I'm kind of skimming over this. Obviously, if this is the very first time, which I can't imagine it is, that this film is on widescreen and home video, that'd be pretty much of an amazing thing to people who are huge fans of this and perhaps only experienced only one half of the screen previous home video versions, but the whole, this Blu-ray presentation definitely gets the job done, but maybe it's just because of the low budget nature of the film. I didn't find it particularly that enjoyable visually, but I mean, I guess it's probably, well, the best we're going to get at this point. No audio anomalies to report. I can't tell on my little, I mean, I just watched it on a little TV with TV speakers. I can't tell if they would have sprung for stereo at, in the mid-80s with a movie like this or not. It's hard for me to tell whether or not it's stereo. It might be stereo, it might not be. That sounds like the weather report in the film Spaceship from the mid-80s. It might be sunny, might be cloudy. Bring an umbrella. Couldn't hurt. Like some Blu-ray review, Nate. It could be mono, could be stereo. Buy it yourself and find out. But in a serious note, no audio anomalies to report. One thing I will say about the unrated version is, as so often is the case with unrated footage, it does look like it's from a film source. I didn't know before I watched this or not if it was going to be from, VHS source or not, but the unrated inserts definitely, look like they're from an alternate film source, but you can definitely tell like the quality definitely goes down with the unrated footage. But as I said, I think it is from at least film source, of the unrated shots and stuff, so that's interesting. But it gets all darker and like the color saturation is garbage, and but that's just every now and then whenever they insert one of the unrated shots, which for the record, just like so many of these releases, like not every unrated shot is gore. Sometimes it's maybe stuff they cut out because they just thought it was stupid, or whatever, just saving time or whatever. So not every unrated additional shot is just gore. It could be just stuff that, as I already said, yeah, so there. And my release came with a slipcover. Not exactly sure how long they'll be shipping them with the slipcover, but the slipcover does look like this. And Kino, on their spines of their Blu-rays, have boring font that the same font they use for everything over and over. But what they've been doing with their recent slipcover releases is actually put the logo in the font of the actual title on the slipcover spine, which I definitely appreciate. Underneath the slipcover looks like this, some serious deja vu if you ask me, but this is what I'm saying. Here's the standard Kino Lorber font basically on the spines of all of their Blu-ray releases, which leaves a little bit to be desired. Back looks like this if you want to see what the back looks like. The normal two stills on the top of your Kino Lorber art, and then that goes there like that. And you actually get two discs in this case. You get a R-rated disc and an unrated disc, which is kind of interesting. I guess one would have thought they just put both versions on one disc, but no, you get the double disc treatment in this case. So if you've got a friend who likes the movie as well, maybe you can just buy one, and one of you can have the unrated and one of you can have the R-rated. I'm going to keep both of mine. Guess that about does it for this review. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, we'll catch you on the next video.